Random question, are you single?
Yes.
Recently single.
Yes.
Yes, very single. Because it's very difficult to find somebody that you love. Everybody's out like just having one night stands and so on. So I need to keep my options higher, I feel.
Then how easy do you think it is in Singapore to find someone to date?
I think right now in Singapore it's very difficult. That's why I'm always traveling. So I go to like China, Korea, Japan, and Thailand. So I think there's better options there. That's from my own opinion. Yeah.
Do you go there to find people to date?
Usually they come and find me.
Oh, wow.
If I just stand there and like, boom, they'll come up. So really depends on what type of man, you never know.
How easy do you think it is in Singapore to find someone to date?
He's my first boyfriend. So like, I don't really have any experience in that. Maybe ask him. Maybe he knows more.
Yeah, I think it's quite easy nowadays. Yeah.
Why is it quite easy?
People in Singapore are quite like open to relationships. They're quite friendly. Yeah.
I think for our generation, it depends honestly, because people are more goal-driven. So like, I think they tend to put their relationships or like building relationships with other people to aside and focus more on themselves. But I think it's society-based lah, especially for Singapore, like I said. So I guess it's a bit more difficult, but yeah.
I think it depends on your standard and requirements you have for yourself and what partner you want in the future, whether you're looking for something short-term or long-term.
To find someone to date in Singapore, quite easy. You just get on like the different social apps, and then you can just go on dates as soon as the moment you get onto the app. Yeah.
I think the same as well.
No, that's a lie.
Why is that a lie?
It took a long time.
Yeah. I think in Singapore it's still actually quite easy with all the dating apps now. Yeah.
For you yourself, what is the best or funniest pickup line you have heard from someone from a different ethnic or cultural background?
There was this Japanese guy. Okay, it's not a pickup line, but I think he sent out a very, very formal invitation. It was like I politely invite you to dinner on, then he lists out the date info, at what time, at this restaurant. Then please RSVP if you could attend. So it was very, very formal. So I thought it was quite funny. Yeah.
Did it work?
No, because I was going on holiday and then I forgot about it.
Okay. Then when it comes to dating, what kind of guys do you think are the most popular? Like, they have the highest social status?
What kind of guys are popular with women? I feel most guys that have a good financial stability job, they have the most kind of people. Yeah. And another type is very good looking guys with six packs. So it's either these two. So it's like you're not so good looking but you're rich, or you're very good looking with six packs. Then you get girls. In between, I don't know. In between, they probably get married. Yeah. I think the in between are probably married. These two, don't know, because they have too much choices. Yeah.
And is there perhaps a specific race that most Singaporeans would like look for?
I notice most Singaporean as in different kind of, I think mostly Caucasian. I see them with mostly Caucasian people, yeah.
Given the small population of Singapore and limited dating pool, right? How common is interracial dating in Singaporean society?
I think interracial dating is quite common now. A lot of my friends are like kind of mixed, like Chindian and stuff like that. So that's where I communicate with them. But so far, I don't know how many, maybe only 5%. That's from my circle, so yeah.
How common is interracial dating in Singaporean society?
How common? It's not very common, to be honest. I don't see many interracial couples, to be honest. And when I do see them, they are usually met with a bit of stigma from either their relatives or their immediate family members, or even social media or their peers. Yeah, they may not say it out loud. It may not be overt, but covertly, some of them have these certain judgments about, hey, this couple, different race. Yeah.
What kind of stigmas are there?
Let me tell you a crazy story. I think you'll be aware of this, right? A couple of years back, there was a qualified poly lecturer that went up to an interracial couple and said, you shouldn't be dating. It's crazy. And I'm an educator, right? So I understand how the standards are very strict for the government to qualify as an educator. So to him to go up and say that, right, is mind-blowing. And many people reacted the same way. But here's the thing. I think that these attitudes are not uncommon, actually. Because if you look at older generation, there is overt and covert stigma towards, if you bring home someone of a different race, your parents might be like, oh yeah, are you sure? Yeah, and you might say it out loud, or they might not say it out loud, but at the back of their mind, they'll be like, are you sure?
I don't think this is a problem in Singapore. Singapore is very accepting for this.
Why would you say that?
Because a lot of my friends, in Muslim, get into Chinese convert to Muslim, or in Singapore particularly, people, I don't think color or religion stop them from loving each other. Yeah. So I have Korean friend thinking to convert to Muslim.
Oh, wow.
Chinese friend thinking to convert to Muslim. Yeah. And we like, everyone is looking for me about this topic lately, and we have friends that are really successful convert, and then they want to know like how, and because it's a commitment, when you have to change how you used to be because of someone, and it's beautiful.
I think it's quite common lah. Like, as far as I know, in my school has a lot of people. A lot of people are like interracial couples, so I think it's damn common. Nothing new, I think. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's more common nowadays.
I think it's pretty common nowadays. Yeah.
Then is there like the most common mix of interracial couple, or like the most uncommon?
I think it's the opposite of us. Indian man and Chinese woman.
Yeah.
I
think that's quite common.
Yeah.
And then the most uncommon would be
Us, I
Well, probably this way, yeah.
Personally, I would prefer to date someone of my own race because I feel like it would be much easier to introduce them to family, to friends, and we won't have disagreements on the kind of, like our interaction, we won't have disagreements in our interactions, like let's say religion related or meeting of families, because since we are of the same culture, we understand like expectations and norms that our families would want from us.
It's not so much about the race per se, but the thing is race and religion, there is a correlation to it, and I think when it comes to a different religion, it gets a little bit more complicated than that. Unless if you are talking about different race in the Singaporean context versus a different race in a foreigner that's either moving to Singapore or migrating over here for studies or work. Yeah.
Then do you think young Singaporeans are more open to interracial relationships compared to the older generations, or have things always been pretty open and accepted in Singapore?
I think lately they have no choice.
No choice. Why we say that?
I mean, because you cannot stop two person that want to be together. Yeah, I think even in my experience, sometimes like even 10 years age gap, when they want to be together, they'll make it happen. Yeah, they will leave the family, they'll run away, and they'll, I have friends that I witnessed their wedding. Yeah.
But like the previous generation, things were not like this.
Yeah, previous generation can tend to be stubborn sometimes.
So do you think our parents would be okay with any nationality at all?
I think yes. To be honest, we were together about 13 years. Both our family never met before.
Oh wow.
They never met each other. So, but they know we all exist.
I see.
But they were cool about it. They're quite supportive. My parents is in Malaysia and hers is in China. And we just didn't really force it happen.
So, okay, for example, my family is of Catholic, like we are Catholics. So, I was in a relationship with a Muslim. Yeah, so I guess it was a bit difficult because like our religions are very different in a sense. So when we have deeper conversations about our future, I guess it becomes very complicated because family gets involved, and then lifestyles get involved. And I think overall, like, in the long run, it wouldn't work out well for both of us, and it would just be very complicated for everyone involved. Yeah.
I think there comes a very big question whether if you date someone of a different religion, will you change your religion out of love? Then that's a question you have to ask yourself, and that differs to everyone.
Then, you guys are in an interracial relationship, right? Are your parents cool with it?
Yeah. I think my parents are pretty cool with it. They know about us, and I think they're quite supportive of it also. Yeah.
See, we told our parents first. So it's like, okay.
Can I ask, how did you guys get together?
We actually met through volunteering. Yeah, so we both volunteer for our minister in Pasir Ris. So yeah, that's how we met.
Yeah.
What's the public reaction like when people see the both of you together? Do you feel kind of judged in any way or not really?
I don't think we feel judged. It's more so we get stared at quite a lot. So like, for example, just now we just came from Lau Pa Sat, right? Then we were sitting there and then a lot of people walked past and they were just like looking at us like, oh wow, this is quite like unique and special. Yeah.
Oh, my mom was amazed at him. She was like, okay, actually, because the first time I brought him home, right? I told he asked me out, then I told my mom, oh, I'm bringing him home for water because he doesn't have his water bottle, which was not a lie. He didn't have his water bottle. And then I think my mom didn't expect it to come so soon. So she was like, oh. Then she was a bit concerned with like the culture.
For your family, like when you brought her home for the first time, like how was it?
I think my dad was shocked when he first saw her. So like he saw us holding hands while walking home, and then he was cycling past, and then he just like he called me 2 minutes after. He was like, "Was that you?" And I was like, "Yup."
Then what about dating locals versus foreigners? Which one do you think is seen as more desirable?
I think many people might have different opinion and mindset on this question. Personally, for me, I think there is no difference in the desirability. But I do know some people might feel there's a sense of excitement and they might feel it's a bit more exotic to date a non-Singaporean.
I think locals is definitely better.
Yeah,
Because like, okay, for my friends, they think that like if you date foreigners, the cultural differences is a lot worse. In the sense like, okay, the example they always use is that like foreigners have the stereotype of wearing shoes in their houses, which I believe is not exactly wrong, but like it depends. And I think because of other cultural differences, just like that, how they grow up with their parents and how they treat their parents is very different from how locals are. So most people prefer dating locals, right?
Yeah, I think definitely local, because the food and culture and everything else here, like, I think they get along like better together as compared to us and foreigners, because like definitely the culture will have a big difference and like it's harder to get along lah. Yeah.
I would definitely want to date a local because I've seen my dad always take care of my mom, and he's very nice, you know. So I'm brought up in a very nice family, so I feel like okay, of course, local man is good. But if there's somebody like better than my dad, you know, like who is good, then maybe, I don't know, yeah.
Then which nationality do you think is perceived to be the most desirable in terms of social status?
China.
China. Why is that?
They're more generous. They can pay for all your friends during dinner. Yeah.
Which nationality, perhaps for Singaporeans, do you think is perceived to be most desirable to date in terms of social status?
Social status. Nationality. Europeans, maybe, like Americans. They see a typical like white, because white is associated with power and prestige, right? Wealth. So, I mean, if you look at how media has trained us, right? Like Western media is what we consume. So we think that that is the ideal, right? Whereas other nationalities like Southeast Asia, or even Southeast Asia, for example, if they're Vietnamese, they'd be like, hey, where you get from one? You know, you buy one or not? It's not as this horrible. There's this stereotype that, oh, you just go off the streets because you cannot date someone locally, right?
Maybe perhaps do you want to elaborate more about the Vietnamese bride phenomenon in Singapore?
Okay, so I think there are people that go overseas to look for wives or brides, and a bunch of reasons for that, right? One is that it could be that, you know, they just find it very hard to find someone here, right? Or they find that the standards of Singaporean women are very high because of education. It's hard to compete against them, and that transitions into a whole different argument on or discussion around masculinity and men's role in society known as feminist movement. That's maybe a separate interview, right? But the idea is that people would see these Southeast Asian women as more submissive.
But speaking about Americans, right, there's a perception that dating white people is seen as a status symbol, especially for Singaporean women. How true do you think this perception is?
Quite true. I feel so. Because usually, you study abroad, you come back to Singapore, you tend to, have a better salary. The way you portray yourself is a little bit different from the local grown. The way you speak, the confidence level, the charisma is very different. Yep.
I think it's a half true and half false perception because generally everyone has this understanding that if it's a foreigner and the foreigner is white, they are probably they moved to Singapore to work here and they are of a bigger social status in terms of their life achievements and status. So I think in that perception, it might be true. At the end of the day, it's just a social stigma as well. Probably because really long ago we've been colonized by the British, and I think it's been ingrained in our mindset that just because we've been colonized by the British, the whites are more superior than us Asians in Singapore. Yes.
I personally don't really think that's the case. I mean, okay, maybe because I'm younger generation. I think the older generation definitely sees it that way. But the younger generation don't really see race as a deciding factor. I don't think we see race as one is superior and one is inferior. So we don't really care. But I do agree that stereotype does still persist in some people.
When you see someone who's obviously from a different ethnic background, is it something you even think about, or do you just see them as a fellow Singaporean who shares the same national identity?
I think I see them as a fellow Singaporean. I think now Singapore is very mixed already. So how do you even tell? It's very hard to tell whether someone is Singaporean or not. It's more based on slang alone that people judge whether someone is Singaporean or not. And I don't really care.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I don't really care.
I don't really think that that goes through my mind because in Singapore you see many different nationalities on a daily basis, so it kind of you kind of get used to it. Yeah.
Okay, actually, it's quite sad. I heard from some of my Singapore friends, okay? She's look a bit different from us. She told me that it's very hard to get Singapore men to like her. So it was very sad when I heard that. I was like, why don't you just get it? Then she was like, oh no, actually Caucasian men only like me. Yeah, so she's quite sad. Then I realized that maybe there's a certain type of girls in Singapore that Singapore men just do not like. Yeah, so they have to go out of the country. It's not their fault. It's just that nobody likes them, so they have to go date a Caucasian man. They have no choice. That's what most of them said. I don't know, or some of them just yeah, but that was kind of a lot of, I think maybe 5 out of 10 of my friends said that. Yeah, so it's quite sad.
Since I'm born in Singapore and I'm Singaporean, the government has already been very strongly encouraging racial harmony since the day Singapore gained its independence. So I believe that all the major races in Singapore, all the Singaporeans actually coexist together without having this thought whereby, oh, you are, for example, Malay, and I'm Chinese and we are different. No, I think most of us and the majority just think, yep, we are Singaporeans and we have the same culture and similar backgrounds.